All right, well, here we are with Elaine Ash.
And Ellen Marie Francisco. When people first pull a manuscript out of the drawer, I think that the first thing you think about is all the work you put into it and, oh my gosh, can I actually resurrect this? Well, actually you can, because you worked hard on that. And there's some really good stuff in there. And it just needs to be pared back. The thing about every manuscript that's put in the drawer is it contains knowledge that only you know, that you worked hard and lived hard to get that essence of information that's in there. And that really is the beautiful, beautiful value of the manuscript. Just because your craft is not up to, say, commercial standards, the wisdom that you've put into that book is. It's what we're all waiting for. It's what everybody's waiting to hear, because each one of us as a human being has information inside of us that's really crucial, really of value to the world. And that can be brought forward. Most of the time, they are written with very rich detail. So I take people's manuscripts and I pare it down to the essence of the story that only they can tell. And I simply apply my craft to it. And that brings out a beautiful book that people love and rave about. And I didn't think up this story. It's not my story. It's the writer's story. They really did create it. So in all of these old manuscripts, there is kernels of wisdom, description, vignettes of that time and place that are priceless and deserve to be worked on. It's never too basic. It's never over.
That's for sure.
Pulling a 20-year-old book out of the drawer, this is something that speaks to a lot of people, and your process of pulling it out after 20 years and having a look at it and seeing your old writer's mistakes, because you're a new writer now. You're much more accomplished than you were when you first wrote it, your first novel. But a lot of people have that, and you can repurpose an old manuscript.
We can talk about Moon Over Mandeville, because when I met Sydney, I was writing Moon Over Mandeville. So it was my first novel.
Tell us what year that was.
That was, it was a while back,
Yeah. So you wrote it for over 3 years,
Oh,
and then you put it in the drawer for all that time.
And then I put
until 2020, right?
Until 2020. And
you have a professional contract with a publisher, but you went back into the desk and pulled this out from the bottom drawer, and that's the one we're talking about now. It's your very first attempt at a novel.
Right. It was really a sad thing that I didn't think to write out an outline then, or a structure so that I knew, beginning, middle, end. Now I'm going back and trying to fill in a bunch of stuff or take out stuff.
So I suggested, what did I suggest? A chapter by chapter summary.
Exactly.
So that you could see the trajectory of where these chapters were going and see it in a much more condensed format. Right. And that's how you can tell if the book is tracking or if it's getting off into the weeds.
So of course I'll give it to you at some point to look at. I'm like, I got to get I don't want you to have to tell me what I already know is wrong with it. You know what I mean? I want you to tell me something else, like the stuff I can't see. So I'm trying to get all the obvious stuff handled before it hits your plate.
Right.
Hopefully I'm not. Yeah, I was falling asleep during my read through. We were in bad shape if I was falling asleep, So I was like, well, yawner. So so I went through every scene, and I just, chapter by chapter, and then I got through it and I realized, oh my God, there's like chapters that are missing huge chunks, and characters are doing things that are out of character. Now there's this whole bunch of characters that I realized need more time on the page, that need a little more development, that have some duty to perform in order to help advance Claire's journey. It's forcing me, I think, too, to think about what am I writing next and how am I going to approach it. You know, I think I'm not going to sit down like I did 30 years ago and just start going off in whatever direction I felt like going in. You know, oh, let's go over here. Oh, shiny.
We all do that.
Shiny
We all have
balls. Oh, shiny. Let's see what this guy's doing. I like him. You know, and before you know it, you've left your main character in the, you know, wherever. You know?
There are so many great manuscripts stuck in drawers. I mean, that happened to my client, Susan Ouellette, who wrote a wonderful espionage novel. And wrote it and wrote it and wrote it and never crossed anything out, just kept adding and adding and adding. And when I got the manuscript, I knew that this was going to be like a sculptor, go in with a scalpel and just peel stuff off until you get down to the main story. And boy, did she work. And did we work together well. She never knew the word no. And, you know,
Oh, that's good.
I got her an agent who landed a publisher with a cash advance, and she's just
Yeah.
had her first rave review in Publishers Weekly, which is worth its weight in gold. The book is going to be released in April.
Oh, that's great.
20-year-old manuscript, you know, never say die. There's a lot of great characters and a lot of great stuff. And so what if it's 20 years old? Now it's an historical novel. Now it's a period piece.
Right.
You can redo it and you can sell it and have your book.
You know what I wanted to say about that too, because this is something that I've run up with both my books, because they were written so, you know, they really were. They were written long ago and kind of forgotten. You know, like how do you bring them up to date? Do you keep them where they are? And I know for myself, I learned a lot about the importance of writing in the moment. If you're writing in present time, then you need to be incorporating what's on the radio, who's talking about what, who just became president.
Don't create a new character when you have one that's already been introduced, who is perfectly serviceable and can come back in. Readers shouldn't be forced into memorizing character after character after character after character when you can form a core cast of people that actually create an arc for themselves over the whole story.
Current event times, what people are wearing, the fashion that they're wearing, you know, the quibs that are coming out of their mouths, the, you know, the social causes that are important in the times are a really important thing to weave into, I think, any story, regardless of what it is, right? Because I'm finding that now, very consciously with Moon Over Mandeville, to go back and make sure that I build the world in the way, like, you know, she's listening to records and you can hear the needles skipping along to the end, you know, before she takes it off, you know, which was a very big sound in the 70s, right? In the 80s, right? Oh, get that turntable, it's gone too far, you know?
Yes, I know it well. When I wrote my first novel, I mean, I just started at the beginning and I wrote through to 100,000 words, and then I typed the end, and woohoo! We all have to write one like that, you know, before we.
So what did you do with it? How did you deal with that? How did the editor edit herself? I'd love to hear about that.
Well, it's still in the drawer.
No way.
And there's parts of it that are still really good. It's called A Little Treachery Among Friends.
Ooh.
And it's a romantic suspense.
Ooh.
And you know, one day I've always threatened to get back to it. One of the characters, she's the executive secretary for a venture capitalist. And I wrote it at the time when I was the executive assistant to the vice president of a trust company.
Oh yeah.
So I was very much in that world. And then there's a rock star, and there's all kinds of crazy. With
100,000 words, there should be at least one rock star girl.
Yeah. So I
And
should.
hopefully the backstage pass too, right? Yeah.
Right.
I went to a writers conference in La Jolla, California one year, and they had a lot of workshops. So you could work on the books while you were there. And I remember pitching, like we had to practice our pitches out loud in like a room full of people. And I was pitching Moon Over Mandeville at the time. And I mean, basically it's about a woman who has psychic experiences through dreams. She has prophetic dreams and she has out of body experiences, and she's trying to figure herself out. She's already sticks out in a crowd as it is. This makes her even more suspicious. I pitched it, and it was an agent. She pulled me aside and she literally told me, listen, this book is 20 years ahead of its time. This isn't going to sell.
Philistine Prophecy was a big hit at that time. How could she say that?
Yeah, but Moon Over Mandeville's well, yes, that's true. But anyway, she said it, I heard it. I didn't take it too personally, but here we are 20 years later, and it's coming out of the drawer, and it's very much, I think, a relevant topic. You know, I think it's pretty relevant. I think a lot of people have prophetic dreams, and I think a lot of people have out-of-body experiences. They might not know what they are, but they still happen. And I think that's personally, that's, I think, where deja vu comes from. I think, you know, it's part of us going ahead into our future and then coming back to try to find our future with all the crumbs that are left behind. So I wanted to write a book about that process, and I wanted to write a book about that journey. And of course it's a little complicated structurally, because I have to figure out, well, how do I differentiate between a day scene where you're awake and it's normal for a character? How do you distinguish between what's going on in the dreams that she's having? And then how do you take the out-of-body experiences and how do you make that look different than a dream? Because I mean, we might remember an out-of-body experience as a dream, but it's not a dream. So I needed to get this technical information correct, but I also needed it not to sound technical in a novel, right? Like, this is not a nonfiction. I started the novel all those years ago, so I was going to finish the novel. I needed to go through it. The other thing, of course, is having worked with Sidney Sheldon, he was a master at structure. He was able to have all this really good stuff happening at the beginning. I think about you, and I'm trying to get this new stuff done, and I think about Sidney, and I just keep hearing him say, blow something up, blow something up. Something's got to go wrong, you know? So this is part of what I need to fix with this 20-year-old manuscript coming out of the drawer. Is I find that I've had to move a lot of stuff that's been buried in the middle and towards the end, and I've had to bring it all the way up to the first chapter, the first few lines of the book. And so that's where I am. What I'm learning, as you know, thank God I've got more chops than I did 20 years ago, because it's easier to go into it and realize this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And what I find I'm doing is I'm taking a lot of narrative and I'm turning it into dialogue. So where it would have been all this boring backstory, I'm now going, okay, I can see in this paragraph, this is something that Claire's mother would say because she likes to think like this. And this is something Claire would say. So it's great because it's helping me put some life into the characters that wasn't in there before, where it would have fallen flat. So, and that's one thing I wanted to mention about how helpful your book has been, bestseller metrics. And I know you don't want me to plug a lot of this, but it really has helped me because it's a workbook. You can pull it open, and I've done my character counts. I've done what pages they're showing up on. I've done all the other, you know, numerical things that I needed to do. And in those numbers, I learned that a lot of my characters disappeared in the middle of the book.
And there's a lot of stuff in your Moon Over Mandeville, very rich, you know, remembering it from back when. And if you're keeping it set back then, it qualifies as an historical novel too.
Well, yes, and that's a good point, because I know that a lot of people will look at an old manuscript and bring it up to current date and have to rework it. But in my case, I felt like I needed to keep it, in those years that I wrote it in, because it has a lot to do with some of the astronomical and astrological impacts that were going on at the time, and that also relate to what's going to be going, like what's happening now with the dawning of the age of Aquarius and things like that. And a lot of those themes are covered in the book because it sets up why she's going through what she's going through, right? Like basically she's got some heavy duty energies hitting her from the planet and from higher forces, and she really has to tune into them in order to get through her day. I'm pioneering this genre. I know that the coming of age story is age old, but coming of new age, requires a little different.
Coming of new age. Oh, I love that. You need to use that in the query letter.
Exactly. And in the meantime, just keep writing. Don't worry too much about anything. Just get the work out. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. Thrilled to be with you.
Okay, excellent.